kind of believes in me. So God answered my prayer, and my mom was 100% on board. So I quit. No other job, no other means of income. I just picked a date and I quit. I picked a date and I quit. And there was so much that I learned from that experience, like now looking back and able to really like dig in. Would I have done it again? 10,000 times over. Yes. There's not one thing I would change about it. There's not one thing I would change. The only thing I would have changed is that I wish I would have never started the job to begin with. But there was some things and gifts that I actually was able to harness through that experience. But I quit, and I just said, God, I know you are nudging at me, and I am going to have unwavering faith. And granted, I didn't just quit with like zero money in my bank account, right? Like I picked a date 6 months out. I significantly reduced the amount of money I was spending on stupid stuff. I made sure to, save diligently a certain amount to where I set myself up to be able to just like figure out what I want to do with my life for about, I would say, a solid year. I had the means to have a roof over my head, food in my mouth, right? To just be able to figure out what I want to do. So God said, I want to be smart, right? So I did that, but that took a lot of sacrifice to like not buy clothes, not go to dinners, not spend money on taxis to go to Hollywood all the time. Like just a lot of like annoying, like stupid amounts of money to just like relieve my stress from hating my job. So I now quit. I quit. Everyone's super confused. Everyone's like, what the hell? Why did she just quit? Like people are like, my boss's boss is like calling like, how did you guys not catch this? Like why would someone that is high performing just quit? And I purposely quit on a high note because that's just who I am. And I wanted to make sure to set the people up that worked under me for success, because because they loved the job. The people that worked for me loved like working in this particular retail corporation. So I was like, I don't want my depression and hating the job to spill over on them. So I like would literally like morph into another, like I would just like have to like turn into like happy district manager hero and like act like I was super happy about the job and act like I loved it so I could pour into them and so they could actually get promoted and move on. And it's so beautiful to see. Some of them I actually still follow on Instagram, and they still work for the company and they love it, and they're married and they have all these like, these kids, and like they were able to really have a nice life for themselves with that career. So I didn't want to take that away from them. So that's what I did. But people were super confused. People in my family were hella confused. Friends were kind of like, we support you, but like, what are you going to do with your life? Like, it was just, but I was just like, I don't know. There's just something. So what did I do? I just trusted God. I said, God, I know you want me to like do something more. And I kind of have a feeling of like a few things of like what you want me to do, but I just don't know what that looks like. Like, I can't, like I have like the end vision, but like the plan is so fuzzy to me. So God just said, look, you're allowed to experiment. Like in this life, not everybody has the rock solid path of like, I'm going to be a doctor. So like I go to this school, I go to this program, I go to this residency. Now I have a career. Not everybody's supposed to be a therapist. Not everybody's supposed to be a pharmacist. Not everybody's supposed to be, I graduate, I become a police officer, and this is the program. And once you achieve the program, you're a police officer. That wasn't my path. And it used to be really frustrating to me. And it's funny because I'm very spiritual. So I actually got like a reading, and every single reading I had, it all said the same thing. You are off the beaten path. Your path is off the beaten path. Your career doesn't exist yet. And I'm like, of course I would manifest into a life. I would reincarnate into a life where I just like would make it harder. I'm like, because I used to be kind of envious, like, wow, like I just wish I knew like I wanted to be an engineer, or I wish I knew I just wanted to be a nurse, right? And like that just wasn't my reality. And like that doesn't have to be your reality either. And you could be 38, 47, 56. I don't care how old you are. I do not care how old you are. not everybody is supposed to have this perfect cookie cutter path. And so once I let God just kind of put that like blanket of like comfort over me, it literally, I felt like the floodgates opened of just like these beautiful moments of life. So I quit, and I was like, I don't know what to do, but I do know that I don't want to be stuck in a job that I hate. So that's number one. And you can apply this to many things, right? So I did know what I didn't like. So that was easy for me. So I was able to start there. And then what I did was I gave myself permission to experiment. I said, okay, what are different careers and jobs that I can do? Not even career, because I was like, I don't even want to get to just jump into another career. But what are some other things that I can do that is going to give me the flexibility, the freedom, what's going to not be high stress to where I'm just like kind of getting overwhelmed again and still feeling those feelings of like hating my job, like hating what I was doing with the minutes of my life. So when I was in college, I actually was a waitress. I worked at Hooters. I did not go back to Hooters, but I loved, like, it was super easy. You put in some order for some wings, you get tipped. It was fun. Met really, really nice people. It just was a fun sports environment, right? So it's like, let me just explore like maybe high-end waitressing. Like, and people are like, would probably be hearing this, like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, why would you go from being a district manager and being considered upper level management, and you can pretty much go to you can actually go into a higher bracket, like from there, and really be like a super high level executive. You want to be a waitress? And I was like, for me, I was super okay. God, there's just a guy like hanging out on the freeway. That's LA for you. So I was like, but I want ease, I want flow, and I don't want it to consume me. I need my energy back. Like, I need to fill my energy back up. So while I'm exploring, I'm okay with being a waitress, right? So I did attempt to be a waitress for 3 weeks. I was like, no, being a waitress is not it. My consciousness was too expanded for it. Not to say that waitressing is like above or below anything, but like being in that capacity with the experience that I had, I was like, it's super easy, but like being in this consciousness from being a manager to now being like managed in that way, I just was like, okay, no, that's not going to work either. So I was happy with that though, because I worked for 3 weeks. It was at like a high-end steakhouse. I worked for 3 weeks. I was like, nah, this is not it. Boom. So mind you, remember, I still had the money saved, so it wasn't like I was like completely depleting myself, right? So I worked at a steakhouse. Then I ended up getting in contact with someone, and I became an executive right-hand man, executive assistant to a high-end luxury jean company. So I did that. So I was almost like a consultant slash mentor slash life coach to this executive, the CEO. So I did that. Things I loved, things I didn't enjoy about it, right? But I worked with him for about 6 months. So boom. Then in the midst of that, I met some other individuals. And I also was with someone at the time, and my ex-boyfriend at the time was like, oh, I used to actually do this company called Productions Plus. So I started working with Productions Plus, and it puts you on different you can go on different gigs, and you can actually, anyone that's looking for a job I think they may be global now, but I know for sure that they're national in the United States, that you can go to productionsplus.com and sign up, and they book you on gigs, like just fun events in LA. So I ended up doing that. So I did that, and I also was bartending at random events, where I ended up bartending at like some of the like top tier A-list level like type of parties in the Hollywood Hills, where like literally people at the Grammys, like the Oscars, like people that are like at the top, like the number, like you think of the number one people, I was like bartending like their parties, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. But I wasn't even a good bartender. I just knew how to like connect with people And like, even if my drinks weren't good, it was like, I just was fun to be around, and it was like, it was fun. So I was like, okay, there's a theme here. I like to connect with people. I like to be around people that like, I like to be around high net worth earners. I like to be around a certain type of like consciousness with the way that they think. I like to be around people that are go-getters. So it's like, I'm learning, right? Like, God's like, okay, you're learning. So while I'm doing random bartending opportunities, then I'm doing brand ambassadoring through Productions Plus, and I'm doing also some promo modeling, like just promo modeling for like random companies, right? With random products at different events. And so it just so this is the thing. So you might be listening to this and be like, well, where's the career? Like, I'm still waiting for the career. Hold on. So I was meant to be doing kind of a little bit of everything just to get my feet wet with understanding what my talents were, what my strengths were, reigniting, doing a rebirth of like things that I used to love, things about myself that I felt out of touch with, right? Because of being in a job that I hated. So it like kind of sucked the life out of me. So I was like, just basically like rewiring my consciousness, rewiring my nervous system, getting back in touch with my talents, getting back in touch with who I am, getting back a lot of different things. So God was like, that's it. That's all I want you to do right now. So it was like fun, but I kind of was just like, but like, who, like, aren't I supposed to have a career? Like, aren't I supposed to have like a structured like life path? Like, okay, this is cool. You know, I'm not stressed. I'm able to still like figure out who I am. I'm meeting people in LA. Like, this is cool, but like, what's going on? God still said no. My grandmother ended up, she had dementia. I ended up being a full-time caregiver for her while still doing Productions Plus, while still randomly doing promo modeling, while still doing all these things. But I was, my main journey became taking care of my grandma for that time period. She ended up passing away last year. So that journey actually recently ended. Most difficult journey of my life, but the most beautiful journey of my life. And I know why God put me in that seat. So, which is another time for another video. So now, okay, I now have 20 years, right? 20 years of experience, figuring out my talents, having different learning, you know, different moments where I failed, having a lot of wins, having a lot of failures, having a lot of weird moments, having a lot of epic moments, having a lot of all these things, and my life is still going, right? Like, I'm still in it. And what I'm going to unlock you with is that if you are somebody in your life right now that is just kind of feeling like you're supposed to have one path and like, why can't you just figure it out? Some of us are actually supposed to be, because like they always say, like, God gives us like most challenging assignments to his strongest warriors. And I really feel like it takes a special set of human beings to actually go and pave your own path. Like, it's really difficult to do because especially if you're like an older millennial and you're used to being told, okay, well, you pick a path and like you just follow that path and like that's just who you are and like that's just what you do. But like, it takes a lot to unwire and rewire and completely create like a new nervous system of like of being moldable, being resilient, not knowing really what's to come, kind of trying things out again, right? So it's okay. God, you are at where you're at in life because God needs you to do that. Just experiment. Like, part of your path is just to be an experimenter. Okay? And it could feel very lost. You could feel like, well, why don't I want millions of dollars? Where's the millions of dollars? It could feel like what everybody else around me is like thriving in their careers. No, but for you, God has you where you're at to be just an experimenter for right now during this season. And you're like, well, what the hell? Like, okay, how long is this season supposed to go for? Because it's been going for a long time. You have to understand that like when God is working, God's on God's time. So like, we're like, oh my gosh, it's already been 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. But on God's scale, that's a blip in time because you could be an experimenter for 5, 6, 7 years and then all of a sudden blast off to the universe, get the craziest once in a lifetime opportunity, because that whole 5, 6, 7 years of experimenting was God fine-tuning and tweaking and getting your consciousness rewired to that next level, right? So I'm just here to unlock that for you. Like, you are supposed to be where you're supposed to be at, and it's okay. Do not compare yourself to anybody else. And a lot of times what happens is, especially with me living in LA, like right now I'm on the 405 freeway. I'm actually on my way to an event in Beverly Hills right now. And I meet a lot of people that are like in the industry or quote unquote super famous or super successful. And a lot of them are really, really struggling. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, I've like had conversations with some people that you see on TV, and you would think that they're like these thriving, perfect life individuals, and like they're like, I'm really struggling. Like, I don't feel like myself. Like, I'm really off. I'm going through it, right? But then to the world, they have to be like on, right? So don't compare yourself to anybody. If you are experimenting, if God just kind of has you learning certain things, or even if God has you, this is what's crazy. Let me just tell you something right now too, about, in addition to the story, because the story's not over. I ended up also working with, just during my journey, a couple things. Gosh, there's so many different ways I could go with this. I ended up traveling the world when I quit my job. Had no idea I was going to do that. I've been to China. I've been to the UK. I've been to different islands in the Caribbean islands area, Bahamas, Jamaica, Belize. I have been to Egypt. Okay. When I was working at a job I hated, I had none of that was not on my I didn't have a manifestation board because I was just so sucked from life that I just like didn't even like things like manifestation and stuff like that is so popular now, but like 10 years ago that wasn't. So when I just trusted God, it was like the floodgates opened of just like fun, amazing, epic moments, right? So that's number one. Number two is, on my journey of quitting, I ended up meeting more people because I wasn't stuck in a box of a job that I hated. I always call offices like a box. I wasn't stuck in a box, so I was actually outside of the box, like meeting people in the world under the sun. And ended up meeting one of my closest friends who I'm now working with on a charity called Afrikicks, and I'm the COO of that charity. And through that charity, I've gone to really dope experiences and dope events and things like that. When I was the project manager for this gala that I just put on in September, someone was watching me. A few people actually, but one woman in particular was watching me and was like, I want her on my team. So now I'm working with her on some different projects, and is part of the reason why I'm going to Beverly Hills right now and going to the Four Seasons to this event. And so I just want to sit here and say, like, you can't, some of us have that perfect path where it's designed already, but some of us don't. And what I'm finding in my journey so far is that I wish someone would have told me this 10, 15 years ago, is that if your journey is just an experimenter during your adult life, your younger adult life, like that's just your path. And like God's going to show you so many miracles and fun, amazing manifestations and bring forth desires that you didn't even really believe you could have. He's going to ignite talents inside of you that you didn't even know that you had. He's going to connect dots that you didn't even know, like the dots existed. Because God, on God's time, on God's like algorithm, like we can't fathom what that looks like because we have our human brain. So if you just let God use you as a portal, like when you're used as a portal for helping people transform or whatever, God just like places things and moves things in places where, like, I can't even tell you. There's been so many times where I've met people. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to say who this person is, but he's very famous.